two writers, one just starting out, the other a bestseller. Join James Blatch and Mark Dawson and their amazing guests as they discuss how you can make a living telling stories. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Publishing Formula Podcast with James and Mark with you on a Friday, as always, if Friday's the day that you download us, in a sweltering week in... it goes on, doesn't it? Because it was hot last Friday and here we are a week later. It's still warm and it's going to be a mini heat wave.
It's very warm, yeah. It's 32 degrees in Salisbury and I've just been for a run and... It was the slowest run I've done for ages. I basically lumbered around. It was very... Also just eating, which isn't very helpful. But not my fastest run ever.
Always the best way to run, with sort of steak and kidney pie in you.
Yes.
I don't know if I've told you, but I've moved over to cycling because my knees were really giving me jip. And so I've done the middle-aged men in Lycra thing, finally joined those legions and started cycling. Yeah, and it's not a pretty sight. But I'll tell you what's I went cycling on Sunday night and it was hot on Sunday. And actually it was about Sunday afternoon, about 5:30. But the great thing, the difference between cycling and running is that you're cycling at 20 miles an hour. So you've always got this 20 mile an hour breeze over you. So actually, even in hot weather, it's not too bad, I found. So one of the big differences.
Well done, Einstein.
Thank you, yes. Well, it might not be a 20 knot wind, of course, if you've got a bit of a headwind or tailwind.
No, that's true. Very true.
But yeah, you do eat lots of flies, which is the downside of going at that speed.
Yes.
But it's important to me and it's important to you, I think, to particularly with our sedentary lifestyles that you and I have, is to get out and get the blood flowing around the body. I couldn't do without it, because running has not completely gone for me, but it's painful. To have something else is absolutely vital for me, and for me it's cycling. Got my man cave going up in August, so I'm thinking about what I do in terms of desks and stuff, so looking at that at the moment.
Yes, standing desks are great.
Yeah, and Russell Blake has his walking desk as well, which
he does. Yep, that's right. Very good. I've got a lovely standing desk, which is really nice. I actually put a picture of that up in the SPF community Facebook group the other day, and everyone was slightly surprised at how tidy it was. It is very tidy. There's no two ways about it. But
sign of a sick mind.
I know, but what of course they couldn't see was outside the frame was just how messy the rest of the room was, and how messy it's going to be next week when you and John pulled up to Salisbury
with half a ton of equipment. It's been a good week.
All your clothes and
yeah, they get spread everywhere. It's been a good day. I had a really interesting meeting in Cambridge today, of which there'll be more probably in August, which I will tease you with that now. We've got quite a few things going on, despite the fact it's summer. Don't worry, we're not breaking. The podcast will be here. We've got loads of interviews in the can. I think I mentioned last week we've got quite a few author interviews. I think tomorrow I'm recording 3 interviews in a row, one with an editor to talk about developmental editing, and I can't remember who the other two are. Oh yes, I think one with our old friend Nick Stevenson, and another one. So lots of good stuff coming up. I'll have to check my calendar to see who the other one is, but anyway, so yeah, despite the fact it's summer, we keep going, and actually probably from an advertising point of view, if you're spending any money on social media ads, a pretty good time to be investing, because a lot of the big companies do slow up a little bit in the summer months, and that means good pickings for us. I'm back into the laboratory on YouTube, so I'm delving into YouTube again and AdWords, seeing what's new, and I'm going through the YouTube course that we've got and updating that. If anything new comes out of that, or there will be some new things, I can see them already. At some point in a future podcast, we'll have a recap of where we are with YouTube ads, which are still a good prospect for authors and for other businesses. Okay.
Yes, and I can beat you on that. I can beat you on that. When it comes to the lab, I've been, as you know, I've been creating messenger bots in Facebook. And having all kinds of fun with that. It's really interesting area with just on the kind of the surface top level statistics of messages through Messenger get open rates of usually over 90% and click rates of between 60 and 70% on my testing. If you compare that with a really healthy email list, you'll be getting 50% open, maybe 25% click through. So just on those metrics, it's really interesting. Then something else I did today, I've been working on. Well, I've been nominated for an award, a fairly well known mostly traditionally published award up at the Crime Festival in Harrogate in July. One of the things I've started to do today was to send out notifications to my 25,000 Facebook followers, just to say that I've been nominated, and if they like the character that's been nominated, that they should go and vote for her. And what I've been able to do is, by hooking this particular message up with my Facebook bot, all people need to do is to leave any kind of comment in the comments underneath the message, and I automatically send them a message in Messenger with a thank you video that I recorded especially for it, and it's all seamless. It's absolutely amazing. So I can't wait to get into that. That is definitely going to be something that I will do a new module, or at least some new sessions for the ads course in November.
Yeah, that's exciting, and I know you're really getting into the bot stuff, and ultimately you will be replaced by a bot, won't you? Well,
maybe I already have been replaced, James. Who knows? You know.
Yeah. Like Fry in Futurama, who became a robot for one episode until someone cut him open. Okay. Yeah, good. There is some really well, we always say, don't we, that what we're doing now won't be the same in 5 years' time, and I feel that there is things happening. But what's also going to happen is that platforms like Facebook will want to keep as relevant as possible and as profitable as possible, so they will adapt themselves and make sure that they're relevant. We just have to keep up with where those changes are happening, which we are. Leading edge. We're the leading edge. Okay, let's get on to our featured interview today, and when we get back, we're going to talk briefly about your launch, because you've launched a book this week. But let's have our interview first, because it's a good one, and it's about writing. It's a really fun interview with Suzy Quinn, who lives just down the road from me, actually, in Essex in the UK. And Suzy's a great writer. She's got a good pedigree, and she's an enthusiastic person who has picked up and made stuff work for her when the trad industry didn't want to help her out, when things didn't work there. She hasn't been idle for a moment, and quite rightly so. She's got quite a following, Suzy Quinn. Some of you, if you read the genre, will be familiar with her. So I caught up with her a couple of weeks ago, and let's hear from Suzy now.
I was published with Hodder. It was about 5 years ago, I think, and I was absolutely chuffed to be published. I was really, really happy. I was pregnant, quite late on in the pregnancy, I think, with my first daughter, and I've been trying to get published for years and years. And then I just got this email from my agent just saying, "Yeah, you got published." And it was a really big advance, and I was absolutely over the moon. It was great.
So when was this?
So this was, I think, it must have been about 2010 or something like that. So it was really exciting. And then, but those books they sort of did okay, but I wasn't too happy with the publishing experience, I suppose. And I don't think my publisher was too happy with me either, to be absolutely fair. I don't think I was a kind of the author they're used to dealing with, because I think they don't really want a lot of input from authors, which I get, because it's probably quite irritating. But it was difficult. I suppose I had quite a clear idea of the target market and who the book was aimed for and who I thought would like it. And the publisher was more broad. They were just sort of, we'll just kind of put it out there and see. And the cover didn't really match with my, in my reckoning, with an audience that would read it, because it was a more sort of literary cover and it wasn't really a very literary book. So there you go. You can see the picture of me being a really difficult person to work with, and the publisher's getting irritated with me, and the book did okay. I mean, I did an awful lot to boost the first book, and it didn't do bad. The second one kind of limped along a bit, and I just kind of thought, the books, just kind of weren't right really, which is possibly true. I mean, they were my first books, so it's I've sort of learned a lot since I wrote them. And then I wrote a romance book about a teacher and a student, and it was just after 50 Shades of Grey came out. So I let me get this right. I can't quite remember the order, but it was along the lines of, basically, my publisher, they wanted it, but they gave me a much lower advance. They kind of matched the advance with the sales of my book, so they lowered the advance because my first book hadn't earned out its advance. And then, but I put it on Amazon. I think I'd already put it on Amazon. And it just kind of,
you'd already self-published it and uploaded it.
Yeah, but I can't quite remember the order of things, but it was, and I think for that reason, my publisher would then, I think they got quite offended that I put it up myself, and they pulled out. And to be honest, it was not. I don't think it was very professional of them actually, because they'd already kind of come and said, "Yeah, we'll give you this advance," and then they said, "Oh no, actually, it's not going to work. We need that kind of book at the moment." So I was really kind of disheartened and felt really sad about it. But it was on Amazon, and I did a lot of SEO stuff, like for my ghostwriting business that I had before. So I just, I really kind of took a lot of time on the keywords. And it just did really, really, really well. It ended up selling like about 500,000 copies, something like that. It's still selling now. And yeah, I was even much more chuffed than when I got published, because it was sort of like, I kind of, it seemed more deserved in a way, because I'd actually done something to make it happen, you know.
Well, the story is not untypical of somebody's experience with traditional publishing. It's not everybody's experience, but it is actually probably the majority of people who you get chatting to, and it turned out they had a book published 10 years ago, and the story they tell of this slightly despondent experience, it's almost word for word Mark Dawson's experience.
Is it really?
And very common. Yeah. Mark will tell very similar things. He looked at aspects of the way they were marketing it and thought, I could do this better.
Yeah.
And so all those things that you say made you an irritating author, which I'm sure is your words, not mine, but sure is not the case, but they also are the things that will make self-publishing such an ideal fit for you, I'd think.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, I do still talk to publishers sometimes. I do still have an agent. My book is on sale in different, I like Mark, I think, in different, like it's published in different languages, so that kind of makes sense to have a publisher in those situations. Yeah, it's I mean, I wouldn't rule out having a publisher, I suppose, but I've spoken to some publishers recently who are much more modern and much more up to date, and sort of do more of the things that I would do and take a more marketing approach. But you're right, it is loads of fun self-publishing, and it is, if you're kind of, have a clear, if you're not sort of egotistical and you're not putting books out there just for your own, self, you're actually putting books that you want. Your agenda is to write things people want to read, and then to find those people. It kind of works out quite well, or it is at the moment anyway.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the books first of all. So I know you spread over a couple of different genres, and you mentioned the kind of 50 Shades. In fact, when you said it was a student and teacher book, we should probably qualify not like a 65-year-old man and a primary school pupil, just because student and teacher has lots of different connotations. But yeah, but that's quite different from some of your other books, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, my first two books were thrillers. So I worked in Japan for a bit. So the first book was about Japan, and it was like a thriller set in Japan. And then the next one was sort of a horror story type thriller. And then, after that, I've pretty much written romance. I've cleverly staged here. Oh, it's so swotty. I've got my books ready. See, this is the book I'm writing at the moment, or have written recently, the most recent, Bad Mother's Diary. And then,
okay, so for people watching on YouTube, I should just say you're holding up the Bad Mother's Diary. Now that's a notable book. That's done really well, isn't it?
It's currently in the top 10, actually, in the Kindle top 10, and I don't really know why, because it was in the top 10 last year, and then it sort of slid out, as books tend to do, and it kind of waved around like the 100 mark for a while, which is very nice. And then this week, I don't really know what's happened, but it's gone back in again. So it was at number 4 yesterday, and it's number 8 today. So I think it's kind of sliding out again. But I'm really happy. It's brilliant. I'm really chuffed. And then this is the only copy I could find of this, but this is part of the my teacher student series that I wrote ages ago. But to be honest, it's kind of a bit sort of had its time now, but it's still selling in Germany. So this is one of the German copies, von Mark Blackwell. I won't try and pronounce the rest of it. So this one's the Blackwell Lessons, which obviously translates literally, is obviously the same, but it was the Ivy Lessons was the original series, which was a bit of I think the really nice thing about the Bad Mother's Diary is it's got like really amazing reviews. I'm so proud of the reviews. It's a 5-star average, but the Ivy Lessons books were more like, some people hated it, like they really, so obviously some people loved it or it wouldn't have sold, but it's a real mixed bag of people like, oh, I absolutely love it, I want to see more of the characters, and some people absolutely say, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever read, So I'm kind of prouder of the romantic comedy one, but I mean, taste is a funny thing with books, isn't it?
But the Bad Mothers feels very zeitgeist, and I don't really know quite what the expression is for that particular genre. Kind of Bridget Jones, the kind of fictitious, badly behaved. Perhaps Bridget's not quite the right fit there, but the newspaper column turned into book type thing.
Yeah, and I think there's a word bandied around at the moment which is like mum lit, or mummy lit, and it's sort of like, you probably won't have come across this, James, because it won't be targeted towards you. So, but like the Unmumsy Mum, those kind of books.
My wife adores the Unmumsy Mum.
Does she? Yeah, it's that kind of area. So it's just kind of like, I suppose it's sort of this generation of mums that aren't very good at it, kind of thing, who aren't very, really very well designed for motherhood. They're more designed for careers and stuff, and then you end up having kids and you do a really terrible job. In some way.
That is certainly very zeitgeist. Yeah. No, definitely. She reads out extracts. So it is hilarious. The Unmumsy Mum. I don't know what. Yeah, so there's certainly something going on at the moment. People are enjoying that satirical poke at modern life, I guess. And so I don't know, where did it come from with you? Did you look at this happening elsewhere and thought, I could do this? Or was this genuinely just your life experience? You thought, this is funny?
The second one, it was genuinely just my life experience, and I wrote it after just after I had Leia, who was my second daughter, and I just kind of felt like, I bet there's very few mums who have already got a sort of author career who can write from at this point in their lives when they can remember everything, remember all the stuff that's happening. So I just sort of thought to write it for that reason. But to be honest, I've been quite lucky when I've written books. They do tend, by the time I finish them, I don't know, they seem to be in sort of something of a trend. So I think something must go in subconsciously that I feel like I probably did feel subconsciously this is the sort of thing people would be looking for.
You're effortlessly in tune with what's going on, what's happening.
I wish that were true, James. I mean, I hope so. A lot of the books I've put out so far, I've kind of hit things, but I don't know. Thank you for saying that, but I'm going to guess I probably just write a lot of books, and so the ones you end up seeing are the ones that have effortlessly hit the trend, and the ones you don't are the ones that didn't. So.
Well, whatever it is, congratulations. It's great to see the success and it's working for you. So do you think, what are you working on now? Are you going to stick with the satire stuff?
So I've done a typical author thing. Instead of being sort of, the sensible thing to do, of course, would be to carry on the Bad Mother series. I have written another book in that series, The Bad Mother's Detox, and The Bad Mother's Pregnancy is like a short read. So they're out there, but I really should be carrying on and doing some more of those, but I'm not. I've got way late. I've got sidetracked. I'm doing a book called What Happened at School, and it's about a single mum that moves to a new area, and then her son goes to school and he starts coming home with bruises and things, and she's sure something's going on at school, but the social services are kind of investigating, thinking that it's the mum, I just sort of started writing it because I don't really know. I mean, hopefully it'll hit some sort of trend, because that's exactly the same thing that happened with my other books that did well. And that something just went, start writing that one, and so there you go. Or it might disappear without a trace, and then I'll carry on with the other ones.
So it sounds a little bit darker, is it?
Yeah, it's completely different. I'm going to have a hard time explaining to my current audience, but I'm just going to say at the beginning, like, look, this is, if you're expecting anything nice here, you won't get it. So, go have another book. It's really, it's much darker. It's like a thriller. Well, it is a thriller, and it's all about the intrigue and what happens next and page turning more than nice feelings and that kind of thing. So it's I suppose it's depending on what you're in the mood for, but it's certainly not sort of fluffy comedy feel good stuff.
Sounds great, Suzy. Okay, well, let's talk about marketing a bit. So that's you as a writer. And in terms of marketing, so right from the beginning, when you saw your publisher doing stuff, you were chomping at the bit a little bit to get involved in cover design and blurb and stuff. And now you've transitioned to self-publishing. What's your approach? What's working for you? Okay, so first of all, it obviously all starts with a book. I know that sounds really obvious, but kind of having a great concept and title, and starting with that, because when when I first started writing, probably like a lot of people, I had kind of like woolly, kind of fuzzy ideas, and when I went to Japan, I was I just kind of write something about Japan, and this happens, that happens. It's much better to just start if you've got a really fantastic title and fantastic first sentence, or sort of like marketing paragraph.
that's kind of, step number one. Sorry if that's really obvious, but it's not. It wasn't obvious to me at first, so it might not be. There might be other people who it's not obvious to. And then, so with the marketing, self-publishing marketing. So assuming you've got your fantastic product, and you know who you want, who is going to read it and what it's going to give to them. So with the Bad Mother's Diary, I'm going to. This is part of marketing, so excuse me plugging my book again, but it's the whole everything about this is all designed for a certain person. So the person in mind was aged between 30 and 50. It was obviously female. It obviously had children. So everything from the colours to the kind of, I suppose, the comedy feel, the light kind of feel to it, the kind of the feet in the bed and all that kind of thing, was all targeted for this person, and also to let them know that when they read the book, they're going to get something. That the pink is that you're going to feel there's going to be some romance in there. It's going to be a love story. It's going to make you feel happy. It's silly. It's kind of silly picture. So it's going to give you these kind of feelings. You're going to read something funny. You're going to read something light. It's not going to be too serious. So all that kind of stuff came initially before starting marketing, and then on top of that, obviously KDP, the keywords, I'm not too sure how important keywords are these days, because Amazon don't let you have a lot of them that I feel are quite useful. Like it won't let you use the word Kindle, for example, as a keyword. But anyway, I do a lot of keyword research, so that would be the next step. And then I'd put some of those keywords in the description as well. But obviously, it's really important that you're being genuine and authentic in what you're doing. So you can't just put in keywords, like books like Harry Potter or something. It's got to match up with other books that people are going to like, or things they've actually searched for. And when they search for it, they're going to be happy to find your book. They're not just going to go like, oh, that's getting in my way. They're going to say, oh, okay, yeah, I'm looking for, pregnancy guide or something. So there's not an outside chance that they might see a comedy book about parenthood and think, oh yeah, I might give that a try. So that I also do, I do a fair bit of stuff on Twitter. I really don't know how effective that is, but I kind of watch other authors and talk to their fans and stuff like that on Twitter. The jury's out a bit on Twitter of what it, actually measurable results and stuff. I've got a Facebook profile, which I use to talk to readers and find out about what they like, and that kind of just information about what they liked about the books, or even just their lives and stuff, so I can get a picture of their habits. So if I'm kind of selling something to them, it won't be annoying. I can say like, oh well, I know you like my readers really like a good price, so I would be very much keen to show them that, oh, we're all bargain hunters, because I am as well, and a lot of my readers are. So you're going to be interested in the fact that my book is discounted or something like that. But other than that, to be honest, I don't do lots and lots of marketing. I'm planning to do more this year. But I think a lot of it is, in my case, is just kind of having the right product in the right place, if that makes sense. So where people want to pick it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. And I've got a few questions. So going back over your point. So first of all, you talked about having a person in mind. I think something they call persona marketing in sort of marketing circles. And that's something I've come across in my other job, which is video production in the corporate world. And we sometimes go to these conferences with B&Q and Home Depot type stores, and the people behind their campaigns talk about these personas, and they do exactly what you've said. Usually they'll create 2 or 3 for bigger organizations like that, but I think for a book it's a brilliant thing to have this person in mind, and it really stop the generalities, stop diluting things, and just fix it on that person who's going to enjoy the book, and that helps focus your marketing. So that's a really good tip. So keywords, I was going to ask you a bit about that. So you're talking about the keywords in the books entry on Amazon, or are you talking about keywords in advertising campaigns? So
I don't actually have any advertising campaigns. So it's all on KDP. So the keywords that you put in KDP for the book, which you're allowed to have 7, aren't you, as an author? That's right.
Yeah. So when you advertise, you can have more. Obviously, I think up to 1,000 maybe on AMS
really?
phrases and so on. But it's a slightly different way of doing things. And AdWords, I'm not even sure if they have a limit on keywords, but you can certainly put bunches of them together.
I was thinking about looking on Amazon AMS today, actually, so I will... Oh, that's interesting. I'll bear that in mind. You can just have unlimited keywords.
Well, I know a man who's written a course on AMS adverts.
I have Mark Dawson's course, so probably one of his extra files might be one of those. But if not, I should definitely buy it.
It's coming your way.
Yeah.
It's coming your way shortly, Susie. I'll make sure you've got it.
Awesome. Thank you. Mark's course is fantastic. I should, in terms of me not having marketing campaigns, I'm basing all of this year. I'm sort of trying to step up my marketing efforts, and all of it is going to be based on Mark's videos, which I think are fantastic. They're awesome. So I feel I have all the information. I just actually haven't done anything with it, but I will.
Ready for the next phase. So you have a mailing list?
Yeah, I do have a mailing list. I should also point out at the end of my books, I put something in. I can't remember what I think I used to have secret scenes. I used to put in, if you want secret scenes, to send me your email. I'll send you the secret scenes, and then that means if it's okay with the person who's emailed me, I can then contact them to say I've got a new book out. So that kind of, yes, I've got about that aspect. That definitely counts as marketing, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, and I think actually that's really important, actually, the being able to email people so that then when your book first comes out, it gets a bit of a boost and then it's more visible.
Yeah, it definitely helps with the launch, doesn't it, the marketing, the mailing list. And do you use any of your list as advanced readers to help shape the book in its final stages?
Well, I don't do that, but funnily enough, I was reading or listening to I think it was one of your podcasts, actually, with Mark, and he was talking about how he uses like hundreds of, I was so impressed that he basically gets hundreds of readers to email, and then he reads all the emails, which I think is amazing. So that actually really interested me. And my sister, who's also an author, she reads the first draft, and then my husband reads it, and then I've got a lady in America who's awesome, who's an actress, who reads it. And then it's edited and stuff. So it does get, a good amount of feedback, but you can always get more, can't you? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, your Mark's runs into hundreds, but other people have a smaller team, like you, whatever works for you, I think. And then you talked about Twitter and Facebook. So they're both organic kind of campaigns, and you have a bit of a presence on those. But it's interesting that you're, at the moment, not sure about the return you're getting from Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very hard to measure. I mean, I suppose it makes quite a nice business card in that I've got quite a few followers. So when, people contact you, they sort of think, oh, you've got, it's like 17,000 followers or something. So you sort of instantly put into like, oh, this is an author who's definitely got a fan base. So that's quite a nice side of it. But in terms of actually, I used to have this sort of rotation. I experimented last year with sort of having a rotation of things, like first lines of books and quizzes and stuff like that on Twitter. I mean, probably I should have done it differently in terms of being able to measure it better, but it never felt like it was doing all that much. But I don't know, maybe it was, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We had Ian Sutherland on recently, and he's recently done a bonus course for one of our main courses. Actually, probably you have access to that as well, but I'll double check afterwards. But he's come up with a methodology for really using Twitter in a very purposeful way.
Oh, cool.
Very targeted on building your list up and turning followers into fans. But it does require a bit of following those steps. But it's interesting anyway, and some people have reporting some really early successes following his campaigns.
Oh, well, I'll definitely take a look at that. I mean, the only thing I'd say in my case is, and this sort of might be interesting for other people listening, is from what I've heard and read about Twitter, it has a more sort of like male intellectual user base, which is sort of the opposite of, this is not saying my readers aren't intellectual, but I think they're not kind of like, they're just more sort of ordinary people. A lot of them don't, their career is like their children, so they're not kind of in this sort of cerebral, hyper intellectual environment. So it might not fit my fan base, but it might fit other people's fan bases more, if that makes sense. But I would definitely watch that video and experiment as well.
There's certainly a lot of politics and junk on Twitter. I'm not necessarily sure I'd use the word intellectual with Twitter anyway, but I know what you're saying. But yeah. I mean, I think maybe the Caitlin Moran type account on Twitter's been very popular, and Grace Dent before her. That must be your audience, I would have thought.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. I think Caitlin Moran is slightly more kind of Radio 4, whereas I'd be more kind of, I don't know, well,
Jeremy Vine.
yeah, let's go with that.
That's good.
Yeah, so it's more, I think she's a bit less mainstream, really, and more, she's more intellectual, I'd say. Her books and things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I totally see what you're saying. I mean, and to be fair, like Cheryl Cole and all sorts of people have accounts on Twitter, so it's not like, it's obviously got a mass market appeal. So I'm sure there is a way. If it was the only like social media out there, I would sort of be paying more attention, and I'd think, I'd just find a way to make this work because there's enough people on it to make it work in one way or another. So yeah, I'm sure you're right.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? And we don't really know where Twitter's going to be going in the future. I don't think Twitter knows where it's going at the moment. It's trying to work itself out and work out how it can make adverts work and so on. But let's keep a watching brief on Twitter, as you are and other people are, see if it's going to work for us in the longer run.
Yeah.
So in terms of some of the mechanics, Suzy, like the formatting and uploading and stuff, you do this all yourself? Do you outsource any of that?
Yeah, so the covers are done by my brother-in-law, which I know initially sounds a bit shonky, like, bringing all the family in, but he's really an amazing designer. He's fantastic. He designs for like loads of big names, and so he does my covers. The typesetting I used to do myself, I kind of learned how to do it and did it, and probably did a really bad job, so I outsource that now. And then the uploading, I do have an assistant who helps me with stuff, but by and large, uploading, it doesn't take very long, and the keywords I do, and the editing, I outsource the editing. So I mean, really, I probably operate something like a publishing company, really, like a sort of small publishing company, just a very disorganised one that needs to do more marketing.
We're all only Mark Dawson's organised. Everyone else is disorganised in the world, as far as I can tell, including me.
And
that sounds great.
I'm quite bitter about that.
I know.
The sort of thing.
I don't know how he does it.
Children. Yeah.
It's really annoying, isn't it? And in terms of kind of career and income, compared to your traditional publishing experience, this is a career and an income for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can give you all the figures I had before. So my first advance was 50,000, which was great, and was really happy about. But then after that, they offered me, because of the book sales were around about like 10,000. So they kind of, I guess, weighed that up and said, okay, this is, we assume you're going to sell around about this much. So they that was per book. So then when my sort of 50 Shades-esque book came out, The Ivy Lessons, my publisher offered me 10,000 for it, and it sold well. It's part of a series of about 7 books, but that book alone, I think, sold about, well, at least 250,000, and then I get around about £1 per copy. So you can work out from that, I was getting a much better income. And if I'd have given the book to my publisher, they would have taken 90% for print, 20 or 75% for ebooks. I don't know, I might have got 100,000 or something. I mean, it's not all about the money, but it's kind of, and this is assuming they would do a good job on it as well, because one of the other issues I had with my publishing company was, it was a big issue. It was, ebooks had just started, Kindle was sort of becoming bigger and bigger in 2010. And I had a Kindle and I realised they were awesome. And I had a real thing about, this is kind of the future. This is how people are going to be reading. So we really need to, with my publisher, I was sort of saying, look, we really need to get onto this and make sure the ebook is great. And they insisted on pricing it at $4.99, and it made me absolutely furious, because every single book in the top 50 at the time, in the ebook top 50, was priced at £3 or less. So I was sort of saying to them, it's just common sense, isn't it? If you're pricing this book at £5 from an unknown author, why would anyone try that when every other book is priced between 99p and $2.99? It doesn't make any sense at all. And they just absolutely refused. They said, no, this is our pricing policy. Amazon are awful. They're trying to pull the value out of books. In fact, I remember them taking me to a meeting and kind of saying, oh, well, as an author, you have to, the exact phrase they used were, you have to be poor but happy. That's what an author is. You're poor but happy. And then I went on to earn £500,000 through self-publishing. So, there is money to be made in books, and it's I think adding on to your profits, a team of people that you haven't hired, that you haven't chosen, that are working in London in an expensive office on quite high wages, is an inefficient way really to go about doing things. So, I mean, I know everyone's story is different, and a lot of people have great experience with publishers, and there are different publishers out there, and, that could, I could have that. And if I respect the people in the publishing team and what they're doing, then I'm happy to work with whoever. But I'd say for authors, I can't recommend self-publishing enough. And, I may have wandered from the initial point. I'm sorry, James, I've forgotten your initial question, but...
No, I was just going to say that was a brilliant answer.
Yeah.
No, Suzy, that was really interesting, and thank you for sharing the figures as well, because it actually helps a lot of us trying to work out, because people don't always talk about the figures. Mark does, he's very open about it as well, and it does help people calibrate and understand when you're faced with decisions. I mean, a lot of authors, if they are approached by a publisher, don't really know where to start in evaluating whether they should be saying yes or not.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Self-publishing is definitely not for everyone, but if you are quite enthusiastic about it and think you want to be self-publishing, at the moment it's difficult to hear you talking and others listen to those figures and think, yeah, I'm going to go the trad route and make sure that 75-80% of my book is paying for that building in Soho.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I would recommend self-publishing actually for anyone before they even went near a publisher, because I think you learn so much more about writing and who your audience is. And I mean, I didn't know any of this stuff about audiences. I've never done any marketing at all. I don't have any marketing qualifications. So it's purely from literally putting my book in a bookshop and seeing what happened that I got to work out, like, oh, okay, so... And talking to people who'd bought the book and stuff, which you kind of get more of if you're self-published, because you realise, I have to, talk to people and build a fan base somewhere. You start to learn about the people who are reading your books and what they're getting out of it and what they like about it and what it does for them. And then you start realising the purpose of, okay, so I'm writing because this person has had a bad day and they want to pick up a book and feel really happy and uplifted. And, this will be how to do it. So, and all of this I learned through self-publishing. And I think if I was published, and let's say my book became one of those books, the kind of, this is kind of what I dreamed of when when my book was first published. Oh, it'd be one of those, like the sort of Gone Girl type thing. It would just, run away with itself. And actually, I'm so glad that didn't happen, because if that had happened, I would have just been so full of myself and my own abilities. I would have been just thinking, oh yeah, I'm just such an amazing writer. And I never would have stopped to figure out. And you actually find a lot of published books, they have one amazing book and then they're gone. They're nowhere. You never see them again. You never hear from those authors, because they just write another book, not based on anything really, not based on any understanding of who their audience is. And that book doesn't do so well. And then over time, it just declines, Whereas if you're self-published, you get to learn everything about your readers, and you get better and better, as opposed to, less and less popular, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And it's very lucid and case for self-publishing and the state of publishing at the moment. Suzy, you have a gift for this interview thing.
Thank you. I do like to talk about myself, working alone a lot.
Well, it's funny you saying not having success early has been helpful, and it's a bit of a cliche that you hear on X Factor or America's Got Talent, whatever, every week, but it is about the journey, because that's what shapes us, isn't it? And if you don't have those moments, those hills, those roadblocks to overcome, you don't really improve.
Yeah, exactly. Or you just become a kind of, I don't want to name celebrities, but the celebrities that just appear out of nowhere, and then they have all sorts of like massive, personal problems because they didn't really take they didn't really do the work and tread the proper path,
Yeah. You need to live life a little bit, right? You need to have a few knockbacks to shape you up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you've got your new book, which you say is a bit of a departure again, a bit darker, social care type thriller. And what's the timetable on that?
Oh, so that book, it was supposed to be a short read. I just had this great idea, it's such a good title, what happened at school, it's going to be, who wouldn't want to pick that up and find out what's going to happen, find out the ending. So I thought, I'll just write it as a short read, just 10,000 words. Short reads are big right now, which apparently they are, just another more information if anyone's interested. So and then I did it as a short read, and I gave it to my sister, who's the first person I give my books to. And she said, what's this? It's completely unfinished. this ending is just sprung on me. It's come out of nowhere. And I was like, yeah, but if I, maybe I just add a few more words to it. And she was like, no, it needs to be a full book. I was quite bitter and irritated as I often am when my sister gives me advice that I know is right. But it does need to be a full book, so I'm finishing it. So it's probably, I want it to be finished tomorrow, but it'll probably be another 1 or 2 months. And I'm actually really dying to get going with the Bad Mother series now, because it's in the top 10 again, and I really feel like, I should do some more material. But probably a couple of months, and then that will be, I'll think it's finished, and then I'll give it feedback, and then everyone will tell me how incredibly unfinished it is, and then it'll be another month or so. So probably summertime.
And a little bit just about the writing process. How do you write? Where do you write?
So at the moment I write at home. When I lived in Brighton, I used to have an office, and then I had kids, and I've moved somewhere that isn't the same. Like Brighton has lots of co-working spaces, but I'm in this like small village. It's called Wivenhoe, and there's not kind of much stuff like that here. So I work at home. I'm very disciplined. I start my work at the same time every day. I do my whatever number of words, and then and that's it. I do the same thing every day. I don't have a sort of problem doing that really. When I say sometimes some days are much less fun than others, but I make sure I do the same amount of time each day. I'm probably quite impatient, so I do everything the wrong way around. I start things I should have researched in the beginning, I end up having to research while I'm writing, so I kind of will go onto Google and research stuff. I usually watch a lot. I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos at the moment about basically people put a lot of stuff on YouTube that probably shouldn't be there and should have been taken down, of things like social services coming to the door and stuff, like sort of crazy people whose kids have been taken away. But you can kind of tell from the videos that their kids definitely should have been taken away because they're crazy. But they put the videos up of, here I am in so-and-so social services, these are the thieves that took my child. And so I know it sounds a bit uncompassionate because obviously these are human beings, and so that's part of my writing process at the moment. Research is, the internet's wonderful when it comes to research. It's amazing.
It's a time of unparalleled access to people's lives, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You say you have a word count or a period of time. What is that?
It depends what stage of the book I'm at. So if it's at the beginning, I have a word count, so I do like 3,000 or 4,000 words a day or something, and then it's probably just time. If I'm going back over stuff, it would just be like however many hours. And I wish I could have more hours at the moment, but my children have ruined my life, and I have to spend time with them from time to time, pick them up from school and stuff. So I usually do. They do that, I know. So I'll usually do kind of 3 or 4 hours writing in the morning. Pick my daughter up from nursery. Then when she's asleep, I do all my marketing stuff in the afternoon, and that's kind of my day. Although today my mum has my daughter, so I get to have like a full day of work, which is awesome.
Great. Suzy, you're only down the road actually for me in Essex, so quite close, which is why, of course, the broadband is terrible between us, because when I interview somebody who's in Chicago or Atlanta, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But when it's Essex and Cambridge, which
Essex broadband, I know, yeah.
It's a lovely county. It's a much maligned county.
Much maligned, but lovely county in some parts, and some parts the maligning is correct. But still, wonderful place to live. I like it.
It is true that there are chunks of Essex near London on the south that are completely different from the bit on the north. Is like Constable's country, isn't it? The bit that overlaps with Suffolk. The old English oil paintings of the countryside is that part of the world.
Yeah, it's similar. Well, kind of similar to Cambridgeshire, but you guys have Cambridge, which is like fantastic. So we don't really have an equivalent fun city to go to. So
there's a technical college in Chelmsford, I think, but anyway.
Yeah, we go there from time to time, day out,
Suzy, it's been great. Thank you very much. I shall long remember the answer you gave about being told authors know your place.
You have to be poor but happy. Yeah, I remember that quite often as well. When I'm reaching certain chart positions, I remember that like quite vividly. And then when I'm sort of sinking and not doing so well, I remember it in a different way.
Yeah, the wagging finger from the trad world. Suzy, thank you so much indeed for joining us. It's been brilliant.
Okay, thanks ever so much, James. It's so nice talking to you. And yeah, take care. Have a good day.
Suzy, loved that interview, and quite a few people were quite excited about Suzy coming onto the podcast because she has quite a loyal following and gets quite a lot of publicity, certainly here in the UK.
Yeah, she's great. She, as you say, she's very enthusiastic, and I like, she's similar kind of background to me with traditional publishing, and a similar mindset now in that, she has her view is, and I completely subscribe to this, she'd rather be earning the money to pay for her own house rather than an office in London. So, I'm completely on board when it comes to looking at it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how quickly this has become a no-brainer. And there is, for lots of people, there is still this view that traditional publishing is proper publishing and self-publishing is some kind of narcissistic whimsy of you, and how wrong they are when you listen to someone like Suzy talking. And actually, there was a post into one of our groups today, I think, somebody who did some number crunching, and the figures he came up with, I can't verify these, but he did some analysis of a typical traditional deal. And he reckoned that if you sold 150,000 books on a traditional deal, average traditional deal, you'd make about $116,000. You would have to sell just 38,000 self-published to make the same money. And obviously it stands to reason to say.
About right, yeah. So I didn't see that post, but if you're looking at maybe 10% as a royalty once you've paid the advance back, Amazon will give you 70%, so that may actually have been a little bit. 38,000 might be too high. I don't know if it was including costs and advertising and stuff like that, but it's certainly easy to make money with self-publishing, especially once you're a little bit further down the road with books behind you.
Yeah, you have to sell. Well, the bottom line is you have to sell far fewer books to make more money yourself personally than you would do through a traditional deal. And maybe the traditional publisher brings access to areas that you can't reach, and if your book's going to be huge, has a chance of being absolutely huge, like worldwide, I would imagine the trad route is probably the best route for you from a standing start. Although having said that, we've had some pretty big successful self-published books. But for you, me, everyone else, for the person who's not going to write Girl on a Train necessarily as their next book, the traditional route isn't, for me, absolute no-brainer. I say that now, and then a big deal will come in for me, and I'll say goodbye. I'm signing.
We've got Chloe Esposito coming on the podcast in the next couple of weeks, I think, and she had her book launch last week, and I saw some posts on her Facebook page today. She's been the trailer for her book was shown on the enormous screens at Waterloo Station above the platforms, and so there's some pictures of that today. Now I think they're only going to be there for today and tomorrow, but still, that's a pretty if you're going to do old-fashioned broad-based advertising, that's the nuclear option to try and I don't know how many commuters go through Waterloo every day. It must be 500,000, I'd have thought, and they're all going to be seeing Chloe's first book, so that kind of thing works. But the authors who get that kind of exposure are one in 100 maybe traditionally published, maybe less than that. She's quite unusual in that she's got a big advance film deal taken care of, and now the publisher is investing to try and make back that money that they've already spent on her.
Yeah. Great. Let's briefly talk about your launch. This is not a launch focused episode for you, but we should mention that you've had the Alum. I have literally no idea where you get the time in your life to do stuff. In the middle of a busy course launch, you announced that you were launching a book. I realise there's probably a bit of a scheduling mix-up, but nonetheless, you managed to do it. And Jenny, tomorrow, when I interview the developmental author, will say to me, "How's your book coming on, James?" And I'll say, "I don't know how Mark writes books and does everything else because I have no time left in my life." But anyway, you did, and you've launched.
Yeah, talking about robots earlier, that's just proof that there's more than one of me. It went very well. I won't go into too much detail. I'm going to actually go through this in a lot more detail at RWA in Orlando when I speak there next month. But the kind of the differences between previous launches that I've spoken about before was that this was the first time I had a Facebook group for my advanced team. So about half of them took that up. And it was a really vibrant community, and the edits that came back, it was the hardest I've had to work on an edit. People were sending back documents that must have taken hours for them to do. Like a couple of guys sent in color-coded PDFs with 300 or 400 suggestions that must have taken them ages to do, and it took me ages to do to go through the document and pick those up. It had 3 different copy edits this time, so I spent nearly $2,000 on copy editing, which is way more than I normally spend. But the upshot is that the book is very, very clean, and the reviews have been almost universally positive, with a lot of people saying this is their favourite Milton book so far. And it charted around about number 40, I think, overall in the States, and I think around about number 20 in the UK. So that's, it's pretty good, and it's selling several hundred copies a day at the moment. So it should end up being a pretty lucrative launch, and at the end of the day, the most important thing is that my fans have really enjoyed it. So I'm enthused to crack on, so I can do another launch in, I don't know, a couple of months' time.
And have you kept up your record of each launch being greater than the previous one?
It's a bit early yet, because it's only been out a week, but it's in terms of ranking, Phoenix did better because it was a charity book, it was cheaper, and I was getting a lot of push from the community as well. So lots of authors telling their readers that they should go and buy it as well. So I don't think it will beat Phoenix in terms of rank. It will beat it, I think, in terms of revenue, because it's twice as expensive, and it won't sell half as many copies. So I suspect when we look at the financials, when things have died down, it will probably have done better than the last Milton one did.
Yeah, well, congratulations, that's great, and we'll keep going on launches from time to time, because it's a subject people are really interested in. And we've had some more suggestions of what people would like to see in our sort of free mini course we're going to put together for starting authors, and launch is one of the ones that's come in a couple of times, is how a launch works, and to demystify that. So John Dyer and I also chatted through some ideas today, so we're getting close, I think, to formulating how that's going to look. Busy time for us over the summer, and busy time
You spoke to John. What? What are you talking about?
About book stuff. I know.
What?
I know. It won't happen again. I'm sorry, boss. Yeah. Great. Thank you very much indeed, Mark. Thank you to our guest, Suzy Quinn. What a fabulous interview. Wonderful to speak to Suzy, and somebody we'll revisit at some point in the future. Have a great week. If you're in the UK enjoying the sunshine, enjoy that. If you're in America, you're probably just used to the sunshine. And we'll speak to you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing Formula podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingformula.com for more information, show notes, and links on today's topics. You can also sign up for our free video series on using Facebook ads to grow your mailing list. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.